This is Gemara in Gittin Daf Mem Vav, and we're holding on the bottom of Mem Hey Amid Beis. We are 3 lines from the bottom, in which we pick it up right after the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef Bar Minyumi, and we begin by quantifying, or better yet, clarifying the first din in the Mishnah. The Mishnah yesterday taught us that if someone divorces his wife, Mishum Shemra, the halacha is Lo Yachzir Lamis, he cannot take her back forever. So comes along Rav Yosef Bar Minyumi, Amar Rav Nachman, and he explains that what is this case that he divorced her Mishum Shemra, he cannot remarry her? It's the case referred to where he says, I am divorcing you due to your Shemra, due to your bad name. And with that, we turn over to Memvav Amid Aleph, today's daf, in which the Gemara continues another form that the husband might say, which will thereby disallow him from remarrying her forever. Or if he says, Mishum Neder, Ani Motzi Sicha, or he says, I'm divorcing you because of your neder. So only if he says explicitly, as the top Rashi points out, in those cases, Asru Rabbanan Lahachzir, whereas if he did not say that, then Mutar Lahachzir, he could remarry her. So explains the Gemara, Kasavar, Rav Nachman felt, as Rashi fills in the missing words, Taimamai, what is the reason that we don't allow him to remarry her, Misham Kilkula? The reason is that he's going to bring Kilkul upon her. Now, if he tells her that the reason I'm divorcing you is why, because of what happened, then Matzi Makalkala, then he could eventually ruin her. Matzi Makalkala. So let's take a moment and look at Rashi. Rashi says, Taima demas nisan, 2 lines from the top, Mishum Kilkula, Shalo Yikalkalenu al Baila, Lacher Shatinasi Lacher, that after the husband marries someone else, v'yomar, he could say, if I would have known that the words were false, or if I would have known that I could have been made for the neder of her wife, I would never have divorced her. I really wanted to remarry her. If we found out that she really didn't have a shemra, or it could be made for the neder, and then, and because of this concern that the husband might be able to do this later on, therefore, we tell him, heavy idea, listen, you're never going to be allowed to remarry her. And you're never going to have a believability afterwards. That's to say, so now if you're going to divorce her, and you're not going to look into her and make sure that there's no issues, to put what Rashi said in very short, is we want to make sure that the husband really wants to divorce, and not that he's just waiting to see, maybe everything was false, and you made for the neder, and then maybe I'll end up taking her back, and we don't want that to happen. So because of that, what do? We give the husband a warning, and we tell him, listen, but be careful that if you divorce her now, for the explicit reason like you're saying, Misham Neder, Misham Shemra, the halacha is Lo Yachzir Lamis. Continues the Gemara 3 lines down, Igdi Amri, a second lashon. Amar Rav Yosef Bar Minyumi, Amar Rav Nachman, Sarah Shemer Lo. He has to tell her, you should know, I'm divorcing you because of your bad name, or Misham Neder Nimot Zicha. So now the Gemara explains, what's the reason I'm Rav Nachman, Kadesh Liel Beloy Banais Prutzois, Barayos Ubenedarim. Now we have a fine nuance that why was this created, the Lo Yachzor Alamis, so that girls should not be parts barayis and avodarim, and therefore helkach sarach lameimar la, that if everyone hears that this marriage is done and can never be resurrected, kirushin aylamis. Why can't you get? Normally you could get remarried. When everyone hears, because he divorced her because of barayis, he divorced her because of the darim, to give a severity, and people will not be so callous, so easy to make nedarim or arayis. And the Gemara continues, Sarach Lameimar Hachi, quoting a Braisa that's a raya to the first Lashon, quoting a Braisa that's a raya to the second Lashon. Says the Gemara 10 lines down, Tani Lishna Kamba, Tanya Kalishna Basra. Tanya Kalishna Kamba, Amar Rav Meir explains Rav Meir, Mivnema, Amru Amoitzias Ishto Misham Shemra. Lo yachzir lamis. What's the reason for the din of the Mishnah? Misham neder lo yachzir, because shamatei lech b'tinas l'achri may go marry someone else. And then he's going to find out that what the original matter was inaccurate. V'yomer, and he's going to say, Ilu yishiyah de'ashekenu. If I would have known this is the case, mana, even if the second woman would have given me 100 mana, the first woman, I would never have divorced her. And then, now so it's actually fascinating. That Rashi that we just saw is the Gemara. This Gemara speaks out the chashash like we just spoke out. That what's going to happen, he's going to say, oh, if I would have known, I never would have divorced this woman. And therefore, what's the problem? V'nimsa ged patel, hubaneh mamzerim, and the children for the new marriage are mamzerim. So lafikach, to protect this new marriage and to ensure that we don't have such a situation, oimrim lai, we tell, have you idea you should know shemaitzi as ishtai? Mosham shemra lo yachzir, or umisham neder, you divorce a woman misham neder lo yachzir. Now tani l'kishta basra. Now v'rayetz l'kishta basra. Amar Rav Elazar Rav Yosi v'nema Amar Amaitzi as ishta misham shemra lo yachzir misham neder lo yachzir mishal lo yebenos Yisrael prutais be'arayis v'nedarim lefikach. Therefore, oimrim lo, we tell him, Emar lo, yes, to tell Rav Yedash misham shemra ani misham misham neder ani maitzi sicha. A brisa proving both lishaines. And with that, we pick it up from the two dots, about 20 lines from the bottom. First word line is Misham Neder. The two dots says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda Aimer kol neder sheyadu by Rabim lo yachzir. V'shelo yadu by Rabim yachzir. So Rav Yehuda the Mishnah taught us that if he divorced her because of a neder, that was yadu by Rabim, people know about, he can't remarry her. If not, not. Amar Rav Shimon Levi, my time at the Rav Yehuda, and this reminds us of that which we learned in Nidarim and Ksubis. Tichsev, says the pasuk, "V'lo hikaim b'nei Yisrael," and Klal Yisrael, b'nei Yisrael did not kill the Gavainim. Ki nishbu lahem nisiya eda. Why not? Because nisiya eda, the leaders, had made a shvua to them, and because of that, Rav Yehuda learns out that when you make a shvua birabim, like the Nisiya Eda did, you're not able to be made for it. What's the raya? Because if you're able to, of course, the Nisiya Eda would have done that. Says the Gemara, such a beautiful raya of Rabbana. What do they say? Hasa michal shvua alayhu klal, is such a shvua klal. Kima damar lehu meretz achayka banu v'lo ba'u v'lo chaylo shvua alayhu klal. The Rabbanan argue with the mechanics, and the Rabbanan say, when the Gavainim said, we have come from Eretz Rechayka, and they were not, meaning they were lying, lo chaylo shvua alayhu klal, v'haid lo katzlinu, and therefore there was really no shvua, and really the Nisiya could have killed them. You know why they didn't kill them? In order to make a Kiddush Hashem, that they did not want that the Shem Hashem should be mechalel by the people, these Avodah Zarah living in Eretz Yisrael. And they're meaning if they would go and kill the Gavainim, people would say, oh, look at these Yidden, they're going to kill people, and even though they made a shvuah not to, that would make a Kiddush Hashem. Says the Gemara of Akama Rabim, Rav Nachman Amar Gimel, Rav Yitzchak Amar Asara. Rav Nachman Amar Gimel, Yamim is Beis, and Rabim is Gimel, Rav Yitzchak Amar Asara, Tichsev Eda. If you divorce her, because any neder that requires, and says Rav Yeshua, says Rav Elazar that this is Asar because, let's explain, the Gemara is now going to explain what's going on over here. Tanya, here it is. Rav Elazar, Aimer lo yasru, tzarich, they asked him getting remarried in a case of tzarich, in a case of a neder that needs a chacham to annul. Ela mimnei she'inai tzarich. Why? Because of the case that does not need a chacham. So they asked her because of the case that needs a chacham to be mefer, because of a case that doesn't need a chacham to be mefer. What exactly is this machlokes Rameir and Rav Elazar in the Mishnah? Rameir savar adam roitz bezdin. A person does not care. He's trying to divorce his wife. Excuse me. Not that he's trying to divorce his wife. Adam roitz bezdin. Let's look at Rashi over here. Very important. Rashi 8 lines to the bottom says, Kalaimer, what does this mean? That he wants his wife to be embarrassed in Bezdin? Doesn't mean he wants his wife to be embarrassed. Einoi makbid b'kach. A husband is not particular if his wife has to appear in court. Helkach, therefore, when she makes a neder, whereas Rav Elazar savar eino tishad issue of Bezdin, and that's the reason why Rav Elazar held that she would not have to go to Bezdin. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rav Yisrael Rav Yehuda Me'aseh b'Sidon. My Tana Diktani Ma'isa. What's going on over here? This Ma'isa b'Sidon is like straight out of left field. Says the Gemara in classical sense, we're lacking some words in the Mishnah. But when does it apply that the husband lo yachzor alam he can't remarry her? When she made a neder and that caused the husband to divorce her. Aval nadar iu, if he made a neder yachzor, he could divorce her. And on this, there's a story in Sidon. Someone said to his wife, I'm making a neder. If I do not divorce you, V'ger said he divorced her. The Chacham undid his neder. Why? They undid that he could remarry her. Menei, taking a ilam, as we've seen yesterday, taking a ilam, that even when things are aser, the Chachamim had the best interest of the entire neighborhood, the entire kahal, the community in mind, and sometimes they deemed that they had to change halachais based on that. Says the Gemara as we turn over to Menvav Amid Beis, my koinam. What exactly does the word koinam mean when he says koinam imani mergar shicha? And Rashi really articulates what's the question. Haloi koinam is lashon hakoideshu. Sh'asar hadav ha'hektish. The word koinam, reminding us all the way back at the beginning of Nedarim, is what? When one asers an item on them, I say this item is also to me like hektish. And the problem is, my says I love him. How does that shaykh when he says koinam if I don't divorce you? So back into the Gemara in the top line, Amar Rav Huna, Ba'aymer is referring to a case in which he says, that he means a kainam in the fact that everything in the world, the peiros, will be Asr Temal, the status of hektish if he does not divorce her. And we continue over here, and the Rabbanan allowed him to remarry her. Says the Gemara of Shita, of course he can remarry her. As Rashi speaks out 3 lines on the top, why not? My Neichashla, what's the concern? Explains the Gemara about the table of the exam. Misham the Ram Nasa, we should make an exam because the Ram Nasa did 10 to the price. Ram Nasa, no, Oimer. Ha, no, there one who makes a neder, famous Ram Nasa from Gemara in Nedarim numerous times. Kilu bana bana, as if you built a mizbeach. Kilu bana bama v'amekaimo, and if you fulfill your neder, kilu ekrev alav carbon. So you would think that because of that, that was the reason why he cannot remarry her. Kamash Malan, that no, there's no kanas, and the husband could indeed remarry her. And we conclude him, they take an oilam, ask the Gemara, what is this taking an oilam? Says the Gemara, what is taking an oilam? In the case of the neder, I take an oilam, Amar Rav Sheshes Areisha, Ravina Amar Lilma, Seva Katani in Bezu, Vimnei take an oilam, that there's not taking an oilam. Rav Sheshes says, it's going back in the first case, the one we said he cannot remarry a woman when she had a shemra, when she had a neder, which was the beginning part of today's shir. On that, the Mishnah says, a little bit out of order, the reason why liyasser alam is mimnei tikkun oilam, like we explained in the beginning of today's shir, being what is the tikkun oilam, that we don't want him, after he gets remarried, to say, oh, if I would have known, undo the whole first get, and now all the children from the new marriage are mamzerim. So for the betterment of society, says Rav Sheshes, that's what is going on in that case. Ravina says, no, it's going on our case, and what it means is that there's no issue of tikkun ha'olam in the case when the husband made a neder to divorce his wife. We continue with the Mishnah and Vavam Beis. That someone divorced his wife because she is an islandess. Excuse me. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yachzer. Chachamim oimrim yachzir. Nisa is lacher. What is the status of what? He goes No, incorrect. All right. She goes, she goes and gets married. She has kids. So if she has kids in the second marriage, clearly she's not an islandess, because an islandess cannot have children. And now she goes back to the first husband and says, Tavaz, ksuba asa, pay up the ksuba. There was nothing wrong with me. It was obviously wrong with you, but I'm able to have children. Says Rav Yehuda, you know what the husband could say? Your silence is better than you talking. Why? What does that mean? So Rashi explains over here from your talking that he could say, if I wouldn't know, because the husband then would have said, wait, 1 second. You're telling me you have no issue. So you want to claim that I have to pay you monetarily. Says the husband, you better be quiet. Because if you tell me what you're telling me, I'm going to have charot on the entire get. And now your new marriage and your new children is all going to be illegitimate. So says the Gemara, what exactly is this machlokes in Rav Yehuda and the Chacham in the first part of the Mishnah that when someone divorces his wife, Shemailanis, whether you can remarry her or not? Says the Gemara, we're about 10 lines down, the beginning of the Gemara, sounds like Rav Yehuda says, Lo yachzir, why not? Because we're worried about a kilkel, like we just explained, that if the husband says, you better be quiet or else I'm going to have charat to undo the whole get and the kids will be mamzerim, that's what Rav Yehuda is concerned about. Therefore says Rav Yehuda, we tell him you can never get remarried in order to prevent him from having charat on his original get and only to divorce her if he's certain. Ask the Gemara, we learned the exact opposite between the Shitas of Rav Yehuda and the Chachamim. Titinan. We learned in a Mishnah, this was yesterday. You can't remarry her, which is the Gemara we started with today. And Rav Yehuda, so what do we see is this machlokes? Alba mamish vakert. Rabbanan are chayish l'kilkula, and Rav Yehuda is lo chayish l'kilkula. As Rav Yehuda says, only issue is if it's yadu by rabbim. But if it's not yadu rabbim, you could get remarried. So Amar Shmuel Ipich. You have to switch around the names. I've Miktani Seifa. Nistis lachav elabanim imena v'yita vasks ubasam Rav Yehuda Amar l'shetkul yava midiburcha mechlal Rav Yehuda chayish l'kukula, from the words in the Seifa, from the words that Rav Yehuda says you better be quiet or else I'm gonna have charat. It sounds like Rav Yehuda again is the one that is worried about a kilkel. Says the Gemara, once you're switching one name, Hanami Ipich, switch around the second case of the Mishnah as well. That is the teretz of Rava. Abaye Amar, says Abaye, no. La'ilam la'itevach, don't switch around the names. Rav Yehuda Bahi Savla Karameir, and explains Abaye that in this case Rav Yehuda, the previous Mishnah holds like Rameir, and V'Savla Ki Rav Elazar, and he holds like Rav Elazar. Explains the Gemara. B'tzarich, in a case of a neder that needs a chacham to undo it, Savla Rav Elazar. In that case, it holds like Rav Elazar, that what? Ein Adam Roitze Shetis Baza Ishtayel Bezdin. Then Savla Rameir, he holds like Rameir, that assumingly he knows about his ability to be made for the neder. Amar Rava, says Rava, 1 second. Rav Yehuda do the kasha, Rabbanan lo kasha, meaning it's here in the Rabbanan. Ela Marava, Rav Yehuda lo kasha, Kedushanina, Rabbanan lo kasha. Why not? Man Chachamim is Rameir. The Anabina tonight kafel, a different Rameir. Rameir says the only time you have a tonight is if it's kafel, if it's doubled. And that's the reason why, meaning a technical sidebar reason why the tonight does not work. And we conclude today's share with beginning the Mishnah on the bottom of the base. As atzmai v'azbanav la'akum, some sells himself and his children. Ein poidin oisai, we do not redeem him. Avo poidin v'azbanav la'chamis avim, after he is nifter, then we will indeed redeem the children, and Mirza Shem. We'll pick it up from the Gemara in the next shir.